Welcome, friends. I'm so glad you're here. Whether you're drifting towards sleep, unwinding after a long day, or simply looking for a quiet companion, you found the right place. Before we begin, I'd love to know where in the world are you listening from. Perhaps you're wrapped in a blanket, sitting by a softly lit window, or resting somewhere under an open sky. Wherever you are, I hope you're warm, comfortable, and ready to wander with me into the quiet revolution happening between Earth and the stars, where private rockets now carry NASA's deepest dreams into the cosmic dark. If you find peace or curiosity in these gentle stories, please consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, or sharing it with someone who might need a moment of stillness too. And to those who've already joined along, thank you. In the pre-dawn darkness of Kennedy Space Center, a Falcon 9 rocket stands sentinel against the Florida sky, its white body gleaming under floodlights like a cathedral spire aimed at heaven. Its cargo bay holds something precious, a spacecraft destined for Jupiter's moons, carrying instruments that will taste alien oceans through hundreds of miles of ice. The rocket waits with infinite patience, its liquid oxygen venting in gentle plumes that drift away like earthbound clouds. This is how the partnership begins, not with handshakes in boardrooms, but with the patient marriage of governmental vision and private innovation, where NASA's scientific ambitions find their wings aboard rockets that land themselves with ballet-like precision. The transformation unfolds so quietly that most never notice, like the gradual shift of seasons or the imperceptible drift of continents. Where once NASA built every component of every mission, the rockets, the spacecraft, the launch towers, the very bolts that held the dream together, now the agency focuses its attention on the destinations while SpaceX provides the journey. The division of labor resembles the ancient specialization of craftsmen. One guild masters the art of flight, another perfects the instruments of discovery. The Falcon Heavy, with its triple-core symphony of controlled explosions, lifts payloads that would have required the mighty Saturn V decades ago. Yet this rocket costs a fraction of its predecessor, landing its boosters with the gentle authority of herons touching water, their grid fins steering through the atmosphere like the wings of mechanical angels. SpaceX's reusable rockets solve NASA's oldest mathematical problem, the tyranny of the rocket equation, where every kilogram of scientific instrument requires exponentially more fuel to escape Earth's gravitational embrace. The mathematics are unforgiving. To lift 1 kilogram to orbit requires roughly 20 kilograms of fuel, and to send that kilogram to Mars demands another 40. By landing and reflying their boosters, SpaceX transforms the economics of cosmic exploration from bankruptcy-inducing spectacle to patient, methodical science. A Europa mission that might have cost $8 billion now launches for $200 million, leaving NASA with funds to build better instruments, plan longer missions, dream of destinations once considered impossible. The partnership operates on principles as old as human cooperation, division of expertise, shared risk, complementary strengths. NASA brings decades of deep space experience, the accumulated wisdom of missions to every planet, the hard-earned knowledge of how to keep spacecraft alive in the cosmic dark for years or decades. SpaceX contributes something equally valuable, the ability to reach orbit routinely, reliably, affordably. Together they create something neither could achieve alone, a sustainable pathway to the outer solar system, where missions launch not as rare miracles, but as scheduled appointments with infinity. The irony whispers through mission control centers across the country. Private enterprise, driven by profit and efficiency, enables the most altruistic human endeavor, the expansion of knowledge itself. SpaceX launches NASA payloads not for glory or scientific discovery, but because reliable access to space creates markets, drives innovation, builds the infrastructure for eventual human expansion beyond Earth. Yet this commercial motivation produces something miraculous: routine access to the cosmos, where launches happen monthly rather than yearly, where backup missions become possible, where the dream of exploring every world in the solar system transforms from fantasy to patient scheduling. The mystery lies in how seamlessly the collaboration unfolds. Two organizations with different cultures, different goals, Different measures of success somehow synchronize their efforts with the precision of orbital mechanics. NASA's scientists, trained in the careful methodology of peer review and redundant systems, learn to trust SpaceX's rapid iteration and calculated risk-taking. SpaceX's engineers, accustomed to moving fast and breaking things, embrace NASA's patient testing and meticulous documentation. The result resembles a musical duet where each player maintains their distinct style while harmonizing perfectly with their partner. In the quiet hours before dawn, technicians from both organizations prepare another launch. NASA personnel check the spacecraft's instruments one final time, verifying that radio transmitters will sing clearly across billions of miles, that cameras will capture the alien beauty of distant worlds, that drills will taste the chemistry of extraterrestrial soil. SpaceX teams load propellant with the calm efficiency of gas station attendants, their routine mastery making the extraordinary seem mundane. They work with the quiet confidence of postal workers, knowing that tomorrow's rocket will carry instruments to taste the atmosphere of Titan, to drill beneath the ice of Enceladus, to measure the magnetic fields of worlds that exist only as points of light in Earth's telescopes. The revolution has already happened, so gradually that it resembles the movement of continents invisible day by day, transformational across the spans of years, where once every launch represented a national moment of triumph or tragedy, now they occur with the regularity of sunrise. The Falcon 9 lifts off, its 9 engines painting the sky with controlled thunder, and somewhere in mission control, a NASA scientist checks another destination off humanity's expanding map of the cosmos. The rocket's payload arcs toward the outer planets, beginning a journey that will unfold across decades, powered by the quiet collaboration between public vision and private capability. The partnership reshapes the very meaning of space exploration, transforming it from heroic expedition to patient science, from rare spectacle to methodical investigation. Each successful launch builds trust, creates precedent, enables the next mission to dream a little bigger, reach a little farther, ask questions that would have seemed impossible just years before. The revolution whispers its way across the solar system, one routine launch at a time. The Falcon Heavy stands at Launch Complex 39A like a mechanical redwood, its 3 cores bound together by the quiet mathematics of thrust and trajectory. In the moments before ignition, the rocket exists in a state of perfect potential, 27 Merlin engines poised to transform chemical energy into the dreams of planetary scientists scattered across universities and research centers worldwide. The countdown reaches 0, not with drama, but with inevitability, like the moment when accumulated snow finally becomes an avalanche. 27 engines ignite simultaneously, their combined thrust equivalent to 18 747 aircraft at takeoff power. The sound arrives as a physical presence, a low-frequency rumble that travels through the ground faster than through air, vibrating in the chests of observers miles away. Yet within minutes, this thunder becomes whisper. The rocket climbs through increasingly thin atmosphere until its engines fire in the perfect silence of space, pushing NASA's payloads toward trajectories that will unfold across years and decades. The central core burns longer, harder, carrying its precious cargo beyond the grip of Earth's gravity well. When its work finishes, it falls away like a discarded chrysalis, tumbling toward the Atlantic where recovery teams wait with patient efficiency. But the 2 side boosters perform a different dance altogether. They separate, flip, and begin their synchronized return to Cape Canaveral, their grid fins cutting through the atmosphere with mechanical precision. The physics of this return journey border on the absurd. Each booster falls from the edge of space at speeds approaching 4 times the speed of sound, yet must land with the gentleness of a butterfly touching a flower. The rockets fire their engines in precise pulses, bleeding away velocity with the calculated grace of a ballet dancer, transforming from hypersonic missiles into hovering spacecraft in the span of seconds. They descend side by side, their landing legs deploying like the limbs of mechanical insects, touching down on concrete pads with barely a whisper of disturbed air. The crowd gathered to witness this choreography erupts in applause, but the rockets themselves seem indifferent to the celebration. They stand on their landing pads like patient sentinels, cooling in the Florida breeze, their metal skins contracting with tiny pinging sounds as heat dissipates into the evening air. Within hours, technicians will swarm over them, checking systems, refurbishing components, preparing them for their next mission. The rockets that once would have been discarded in the ocean after a single use now wait quietly for refurbishment, their reusability transforming the economics of reaching space from ruinous expense to manageable cost. This transformation enables something unprecedented in the history of space exploration: routine access to trajectories that lead beyond Earth's neighborhood. NASA's Europa Clipper mission, designed to orbit Jupiter and study its ice-covered moon, launches aboard a Falcon Heavy because no other rocket can deliver its mass to the outer solar system at an affordable price. The spacecraft begins its journey not as a unique national treasure, but as cargo aboard a reusable delivery system, its scientific instruments nestled in a payload. Fairing that has carried satellites, supplies, and other spacecraft to their appointed destinations. The irony unfolds with mathematical precision. The most advanced scientific mission in NASA's history launches aboard rockets that land themselves with increasing nonchalance. The Falcon Heavy's side boosters touch down within seconds of each other, their synchronized landing resembling a choreographed performance more than an engineering achievement. Yet, this routine miracle enables discoveries that will reshape humanity's understanding of where life might exist in the cosmos, where alien oceans might harbor chemistries unknown to Earth's biology. The mystery lies in how quickly the extraordinary becomes mundane. The first Falcon Heavy landing produced global headlines and millions of views on video platforms. The 10th landing barely merits a mention in space industry publications, yet each routine recovery represents accumulated savings that fund additional missions, backup spacecraft, redundant instruments. The spectacle fades, but the capability compounds like interest in a cosmic savings account. SpaceX's engineers designed the Falcon Heavy not for glory, but for reliability. Not for historic firsts, but for countless repeatable seconds. The rocket's 3 cores burn with the patient efficiency of industrial machinery, their engines designed to fire dozens of times across multiple missions. The boosters that land at Cape Canaveral will fly again within months, carrying different payloads to different destinations, their reusability making space exploration sustainable in ways that throwaway rockets never could. In mission control centers across the country, NASA scientists track the trajectory of payloads launched aboard reused rockets. The spacecraft carrying their life's work arcs through the inner solar system aboard vehicles that have already proven their reliability through multiple flights. The Europa Clipper, launched on its 6-year journey to Jupiter, travels aboard a rocket system that will launch again before the spacecraft reaches its destination. The collaboration unfolds with the quiet efficiency of mature partnership. SpaceX provides the transportation with increasing reliability. NASA provides the destinations with expanding ambition. Each successful mission builds confidence for the next, creating a feedback loop of capability and aspiration that transforms space exploration from episodic adventure to systematic investigation. The Falcon Heavy's boosters stand ready for their next mission while their previous payload drifts through the cosmic dark, beginning a journey that will unfold across the better part of a decade. The thunder of launch fades to whisper, but the whisper carries human dreams across billions of miles of emptiness, powered by rockets that return home to fly again. The ledger books of cosmic exploration tell a story written in billions of dollars and decades of patient waiting. Before SpaceX transformed the mathematics of reaching orbit, NASA's planetary science missions existed in a state of perpetual triage, choosing between Europa or Enceladus, between Mars, sample return, or asteroid rendezvous, between the moons of Jupiter or the rings of Saturn. Each destination demanded the full treasury of a small nation. Each launch window that passed unmarked represented opportunities lost for a generation of scientists. The Space Shuttle, magnificent in its complexity, cost nearly $2 billion per mission when accounting for development, operations, and the standing army of technicians required to maintain its intricate systems. The shuttle could reach only low Earth orbit, requiring additional upper stages and years of gravitational assists to send relatively small payloads toward the outer planets. A single mission to Jupiter's moons consumed budgets that could fund entire university departments for decades, making deep space exploration a luxury affordable only through rare political alignment and public enthusiasm. The Falcon 9 changes this arithmetic with the quiet efficiency of compound interest. At $67 million per launch, the rocket costs less than a single space shuttle main engine. When SpaceX reuses the first stage, as they now do routinely, the marginal cost drops to perhaps $40 million, roughly the price of a luxury yacht or a moderately successful Hollywood film. This economic transformation ripples through NASA's mission planning like a stone dropped in still water, enabling conversations about destinations and timelines that would have been fantasies just years earlier. The Europa Clipper mission illustrates this new mathematics perfectly. Originally designed to launch aboard NASA's own space launch system at a cost approaching $2 billion just for the rocket, the mission migrated to a Falcon Heavy for roughly $180 million. The savings fund additional instruments, longer mission durations, backup systems that ensure the spacecraft's survival during its harrowing passage through Jupiter's radiation belts. What once required the full focus of NASA's planetary science budget now leaves room for simultaneous missions to Venus, Mars, and the asteroid belt. SpaceX's reusability transforms space exploration from a series of unique engineering challenges to something approaching an industrial process. The Falcon 9's first stage, designed to fly 10 times with minimal refurbishment, amortizes its development costs across multiple missions. The grid fins that guide each booster through atmospheric re-entry, machined from titanium and capable of withstanding temperatures that would melt copper, pay for themselves through repeated use. The landing legs, once extended, fold back against the rocket's body with mechanical patience, ready for the next mission's cargo. The irony unfolds in boardrooms and budget meetings across Washington. Cost reduction enables scientific ambition. NASA's administrators, once forced to choose between competing missions through painful political compromise, now consider portfolio approaches where multiple spacecraft launch toward different destinations within the same fiscal year. The Drake mission to Neptune, once considered too expensive to contemplate, becomes feasible when launch costs drop below the threshold of congressional concern. The sample return mission to Phobos, Mars's largest moon, advances from concept study to preliminary design when SpaceX proves that heavy payloads can reach interplanetary trajectories affordably. The transformation happens so gradually that most observers miss its significance. Each Falcon 9 landing seems routine. Each reused booster launch appears unremarkable. Yet together they construct a new foundation for human expansion into the cosmos. The accumulated savings from reusable rockets fund not just individual missions but entire classes of exploration that were previously unimaginable. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory begins designing spacecraft families, multiple copies of successful designs that can explore different destinations simultaneously, spreading risk across multiple missions rather than betting everything on single, irreplaceable probes. The mystery lies in how quickly the impossible becomes inevitable. Mission planners who once fought for decades to secure funding for a single flyby now sketch trajectories for orbital surveys, atmospheric probes, and surface landers. The reduced cost of reaching space creates a cascade of possibilities if launch is affordable. Spacecraft can be heavier. If spacecraft can be heavier, they can carry more instruments. If they carry more instruments, they can answer more questions. If they answer more questions, they justify more missions. Private industry's profit motive, traditionally seen as antithetical to pure scientific research, becomes the enabler of humanity's most altruistic endeavor. SpaceX reduces launch costs not to benefit science, but to capture market share. Yet, their commercial success creates the economic conditions under which systematic exploration of the solar system becomes not just possible, but practical. The company's engineers optimize for reliability and reusability because customers demand predictable access to orbit. Yet these optimizations benefit NASA's missions to Europa and Enceladus as much as they benefit commercial satellite deployments. In the quiet offices where mission trajectories are calculated and budgets are balanced, NASA's planners work with assumptions that would have seemed absurd just decades earlier. Launch costs that once dominated mission budgets now represent rounding errors in spacecraft development. The mathematical constraints that forced previous generations to choose between scientific objectives now dissolve, replaced by new limiting factors: manufacturing capacity, testing time, the patience required to wait for optimal launch windows that occur once every 26 months for Mars, once every 13 months for Jupiter. The revolution proceeds with the inevitability of economic gravity, each successful mission creating precedent for the next, each cost reduction enabling additional ambition. The ledger books of cosmic exploration, once written in the red ink of perpetual deficit, begin showing surpluses that compound into capabilities previous generations could only imagine. The Dragon spacecraft drifts through the vacuum between Earth and the International Space Station, its white hull catching sunlight like a pearl suspended in the cosmic dark. Inside its pressurized compartment, supplies float in the perfect stillness of microgravity fresh fruit for astronauts who have not tasted strawberries in months. Scientific instruments that will probe the mysteries of protein crystallization in weightlessness. Spare parts for systems that keep 7 humans alive in the most hostile environment imaginable. The cargo bay holds humanity's most routine miracle: regularly scheduled deliveries to orbit, transforming space logistics from heroic expedition to something approaching postal service. The Dragon's cargo manifests read like shopping lists for a very specialized household. Toothbrushes and dehydrated ice cream share space with experiments designed to grow perfect crystals in the absence of gravity's organizing influence. Laptop computers nestle beside containers of genetically modified mice, their DNA altered to study muscle atrophy in weightlessness. Fresh water, more precious than gold in orbit, travels in specialized containers that prevent the formation of bubbles that could clog life support systems. Each item represents months of planning, testing, and certification, yet the Dragon delivers them with the routine efficiency of a delivery truck navigating suburban streets. This cargo service, mundane in its reliability, rehearses the logistics that will eventually support human missions to Mars. Every Dragon launch tests the systems that will one day carry not just supplies, but people on journeys lasting months or years. The spacecraft's heat shield, designed to protect returning experiments from the temperatures of atmospheric re-entry, will inform the development of vehicles capable of landing on Mars. The life support systems that maintain cabin pressure during the Dragon's brief journey will evolve into the environmental controls that keep astronauts alive during the 8-month transit to the Red Planet. NASA's partnership with SpaceX for cargo delivery represents a fundamental shift in how space agencies approach logistics. Instead of designing and building their own transport vehicles, NASA purchases delivery services, allowing the agency to focus its expertise on the scientific payloads rather than the vehicles that carry them. This division of labor mirrors the relationship between universities and shipping companies. Researchers concentrate on their experiments, while specialists handle the complex business of transportation. The International Space Station serves as humanity's first permanent foothold beyond Earth, but it also functions as a testing ground for technologies that will enable deeper space exploration. The laboratory modules that Dragon supplies regularly host experiments in growing food in space, recycling water and air with perfect efficiency, and maintaining human health during long-duration spaceflight. Each successful cargo delivery brings fresh opportunities to test technologies that will eventually support missions to asteroids, Mars, and the moons of Jupiter. The irony unfolds in the station's cramped laboratories. The most advanced research facility in human history depends entirely on regular deliveries from Earth, like a remote research station in Antarctica receiving supply drops. The astronauts who conduct experiments worth millions of dollars must also unpack cargo like grocery store clerks, carefully cataloging each item and ensuring nothing floats away in the weightless environment. The Dragon's arrival creates a brief festival of abundance as crew members discover fresh food, new books, and personal items from family members hundreds of miles below. SpaceX's Dragon represents the first commercially developed spacecraft to carry humans to orbit, breaking a government monopoly that had lasted for decades. Yet its most important contribution may be the quiet routine of cargo delivery, proving that private companies can provide reliable access to space with the consistency that sustained exploration requires. Each successful mission builds confidence in the systems and procedures that will eventually carry astronauts to destinations far beyond the safety of low Earth orbit. The spacecraft's automated docking system, guided by sensors and computers rather than human pilots, demonstrates the autonomy that deep space missions will require. When Dragon approaches the International Space Station, it navigates the final approach without ground control, its systems calculating trajectory adjustments with the precision necessary to mate two objects traveling at 17,000 miles per hour. This autonomous capability becomes essential for missions to Mars, where radio signals take up to 24 minutes to travel between Earth and spacecraft, making real-time control impossible. The mystery lies in how quickly the extraordinary becomes mundane. The first Dragon cargo mission attracted global attention as a commercial milestone. The 50th barely merits mention in space industry publications. Yet each routine delivery represents accumulated expertise in space logistics, refined procedures for maintaining spacecraft systems, improved techniques for preserving cargo during the journey between worlds. The mundane accumulates into capability like sediment-forming rock layers over geological time. Dragon's cargo bay, emptied of earthbound supplies, fills with completed experiments and equipment returning for analysis. Protein crystals grown in the perfect microgravity of orbit travel home in specialized containers that maintain temperature and humidity with pharmaceutical precision. Samples of astronaut blood and urine, collected to study the effects of long-duration spaceflight on human physiology, returned to Earth for analysis by researchers who will design countermeasures for Mars missions. The spacecraft becomes a two-way bridge between Earth's laboratories and humanity's first laboratory in space. The partnership between NASA and SpaceX for cargo delivery creates precedents that extend far beyond the International Space Station. Each successful mission proves that commercial companies can handle the life-critical logistics of space exploration, that routine access to orbit enables scientific research impossible on Earth's surface, that the boundary between government and private capability continues to shift in ways that benefit both partners. The Dragon floats through vacuum toward its appointment with the station, carrying humanity's expanding presence in space, one delivery at a time. Starship stands at Starbase like a steel cathedral dedicated to humanity's expansion beyond Earth, its gleaming hull reaching toward the Texas sky with the authority of ambition made manifest in metal. The rocket dwarfs everything around it, workers appear as insects beside its base, vehicles become toys in its shadow. Even the massive Super Heavy booster that will lift it to orbit seems delicate beneath Starship's imposing bulk. At 50 meters tall and 9 meters wide, the spacecraft represents the largest flying machine ever designed. A vessel capable of carrying 100 tons of cargo or 100 passengers to destinations that exist only as points of light in Earth's telescopes. The numbers alone inspire a kind of mathematical vertigo. Starship's payload capacity exceeds that of the Saturn IV, the rocket that carried Apollo astronauts to the Moon, while its reusable design promises to reduce the cost of reaching orbit by orders of magnitude. Where the Saturn V could lift 50 tons to low Earth orbit at a cost of over $1 billion per launch, Starship aims to deliver twice that payload for perhaps 1% of the price. The transformation resembles the shift from handcrafted automobiles to mass production, making space travel accessible to institutions and individuals who could never afford the previous generation's vehicles. NASA's missions to the outer planets, once constrained by payload limitations that forced agonizing compromises between scientific instruments, suddenly face a different problem: how to utilize Starship's enormous cargo capacity effectively. The Europa Clipper mission, designed to fit within the modest fairing of existing rockets, could be redesigned as a much larger spacecraft with redundant systems, additional instruments, and landing capability that current mission planners dare not imagine. The vessel that carries NASA's dreams to Jupiter's moons could itself land on Europa's surface, drilling through kilometers of ice to taste the alien ocean beneath. The Super Heavy booster that lifts Starship from Earth's surface burns 33 Raptor engines simultaneously, their combined thrust equivalent to twice the power of the Saturn V's first stage. Yet this massive booster, like the Falcon 9's first stage, returns to Earth for reuse, landing on mechanical legs with the patient precision of a heron touching water. The booster's recovery transforms what was once the most expensive component of any space mission into a reusable asset, amortizing its development costs across hundreds of flights rather than destroying itself in a single burst of glory. Starship itself represents an even more ambitious engineering challenge, a spacecraft designed to land on airless worlds without runways, launch itself back to orbit without ground support, and repeat this cycle dozens of times across multiple missions. The vehicle's heat shield, composed of thousands of hexagonal tiles, must protect the spacecraft during high-speed re-entry through Earth's atmosphere, Mars's thin air, or the complete vacuum around airless moons. Its engines, designed to burn methane and oxygen, can theoretically refuel from resources found on Mars, creating the possibility of sustainable transportation between worlds. The irony unfolds in the careful choreography of aerospace development. The largest rocket ever built aims to make space travel as routine as airline flights. SpaceX's engineers designed Starship not for single heroic missions, but for the patient logistics of civilization's expansion beyond Earth. The spacecraft's cargo bay could carry prefabricated habitats to Mars, scientific laboratories to the asteroid belt, or mining equipment to the lunar surface. Its passenger compartment, configured for deep space travel, could transport researchers to Europa, tourists to lunar hotels, or colonists to settlements that exist only in architectural drawings. NASA's partnership with SpaceX for Starship development represents the agency's most ambitious bet on commercial space capability. The Human Landing System contract, worth nearly $3 billion, funds Starship's development as the vehicle that will carry NASA astronauts from lunar orbit to the Moon's surface for the first time since 1972. Yet Starship's capabilities extend far beyond NASA's immediate needs, creating a platform for missions that current space agencies cannot imagine or afford. The mystery lies in Starship's scale and ambition. Previous spacecraft were designed for specific missions: Apollo for lunar exploration, Space Shuttle for low Earth orbit operations, Voyager for planetary flyby. Starship represents something unprecedented, a general-purpose vehicle for interplanetary transportation, equally capable of delivering cargo to Mars, landing on Europa, or establishing permanent bases on the Moon. Its versatility creates possibilities that mission planners struggle to categorize within existing frameworks of space exploration. The spacecraft's methane-fueled engines represent a careful compromise between performance and practicality. Methane burns cleanly, leaves minimal residue in engine components, and can theoretically be manufactured from carbon dioxide and water resources available on Mars and several moons in the outer solar system. This fuel choice enables Starship to refuel at its destination, transforming one-way missions into round trips, supply runs into permanent transportation routes. In the quiet offices where NASA's future missions take shape, planners work with assumptions that Starship's capabilities will fundamentally transform space exploration. Missions once constrained by mass limitations now face challenges of complexity and ambition. The Europa lander that might hitchhike on a Starship mission to Jupiter could carry drilling equipment powerful enough to penetrate kilometers of ice, robotic submarines capable of exploring alien oceans, and communication systems that relay discoveries back to Earth in real time. The Cathedral of Steel stands ready for its first orbital flight, its engines tested, its systems verified, its heat shield prepared for the violence of atmospheric re-entry. Starship represents humanity's next step toward becoming a spacefaring civilization, where travel between worlds becomes as routine as flights between continents. NASA's scientific missions, carried aboard this Leviathan of the aerospace age, will explore destinations with capabilities that current technology cannot provide. The vessel waits with infinite patience for its appointment with the cosmos, ready to carry human dreams across the solar system with the quiet authority of inevitable progress. Europa Clipper drifts through the assembled quietude of a clean room at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. its golden solar arrays folded like the wings of a mechanical butterfly awaiting metamorphosis. The spacecraft embodies 2 decades of careful engineering and patient scientific planning. Designed to answer one of astrobiology's most profound questions, does life exist in the subsurface ocean of Jupiter's ice-covered moon? Every component, from its radiation-hardened computers to its ice-penetrating radar, represents humanity's accumulated expertise in exploring worlds where no human foot will ever touch solid ground. The mission's trajectory unfolds with the precision of celestial clockwork. Europa Clipper will launch aboard a Falcon Heavy in October 2024, beginning a journey that will carry it past Mars for a gravitational boost, then onward through the asteroid belt toward Jupiter's radiation-dominated neighborhood. The spacecraft will arrive at the Jovian system in 2030, entering an elliptical orbit that carries it close to Europa during carefully planned flybys, while retreating to safer distances between encounters. Each orbit protects the spacecraft from Jupiter's fierce radiation belts while maximizing scientific observation time. The ice-penetrating radar mounted beneath Europa Clipper's chassis will probe through Europa's frozen shell, measuring its thickness and searching for liquid water beneath. Scientists estimate that Europa's subsurface ocean contains twice as much water as all of Earth's oceans combined, heated by the gravitational flexing that Jupiter's massive presence creates in the Moon's rocky core. This tidal heating generates more energy than radioactive decay provides Earth's interior, potentially driving hydrothermal chemistry that could support alien biochemistries unknown to terrestrial science. Europa's surface tells a story written in cracks and ridges, where tidal forces continuously break and reform the ice shell like a slowly moving jigsaw puzzle. The spacecraft's high-resolution cameras will map these features with unprecedented detail, searching for evidence of recent geological activity that might indicate communication between the hidden ocean and the space environment. Europa Clipper's instruments will taste the thin atmosphere created by Jupiter's radiation, splitting water molecules from the Moon's surface, analyzing the chemistry for hints of biological processes occurring in the ocean below. The irony unfolds in the mission's careful choreography. Europa Clipper must approach close enough to gather detailed scientific data while remaining far enough away to survive Jupiter's radiation environment, which would destroy unprotected electronics within hours. The spacecraft follows a complex orbital dance, swooping close to Europa during brief encounters before retreating to safer distances where Jupiter's magnetic field provides some protection from the worst radiation. Each flyby lasts only hours, yet the accumulated data from dozens of encounters will revolutionize humanity's understanding of ocean worlds. SpaceX's Falcon Heavy enables Europa Clipper to reach Jupiter directly, without the years-long gravitational slingshot maneuvers that previous missions required to build up sufficient velocity. The rocket's powerful upper stage imparts enough energy to send the spacecraft on a trajectory that reaches Jupiter in less than 6 years, compared to the 8-year journey that a more modest rocket would require. This time, savings preserves the spacecraft's systems and instruments, ensuring that Europa Clipper arrives at its destination with full capability rather than the degraded performance that longer journeys might impose. The spacecraft's scientific instruments represent the cutting edge of remote sensing technology. The thermal imaging system will map Europa's surface temperature with precision sufficient to identify warm spots that might indicate recent geological activity. The magnetometer will search for perturbations in Jupiter's magnetic field that would confirm the existence of Europa's conducting ocean. The ultraviolet spectrometer will analyze the composition of any water plumes that might be ejected from Europa's surface, providing direct samples of the Moon's subsurface chemistry without requiring the spacecraft to land. The mystery lies in what Europa Clipper might discover in the alien ocean beneath kilometers of ice. Earth's deep-sea hydrothermal vents support ecosystems that derive energy from chemical processes rather than sunlight, suggesting that similar communities might exist in Europa's dark waters. The spacecraft's instruments could detect the chemical signatures of biological processes, the byproducts of metabolism that might indicate life forms as different from terrestrial organisms as Earth's extremophiles differ from familiar surface plants and animals. NASA's investment in Europa. Clipper represents the agency's commitment to astrobiology as a scientific discipline worthy of major mission resources. The spacecraft costs over $4 billion to develop and operate, making it one of the most expensive robotic missions in space exploration history. Yet, the potential discovery of extraterrestrial life, even in microbial form, would revolutionize humanity's understanding of its place in the universe, transforming life from a terrestrial accident to a cosmic inevitability. The mission timeline stretches across decades of patient planning and execution. Europa Clipper's primary mission will last 4 years, during which the spacecraft will complete dozens of flybys of Europa while also studying Jupiter's other large moons. The accumulated radiation exposure will eventually degrade the spacecraft's systems beyond repair, but the scientific data transmitted back to Earth will provide material for analysis that could continue for decades beyond the mission's operational life. In the clean room where Europa Clipper awaits its final preparations, technicians work with the reverence of archaeologists handling priceless artifacts. Each instrument represents years of development by teams of specialists. Each component has been tested and retested to survive the journey to Jupiter's hostile environment. The spacecraft's golden thermal blankets reflect not just heat, but humanity's determination to explore worlds where the conditions for life might exist in forms that terrestrial experience cannot imagine. The Falcon Heavy that will lift Europa Clipper toward Jupiter waits at Kennedy Space Center, its 3 cores fueled and ready to transform the spacecraft from Earthbound artifact to interplanetary explorer. The mission begins with thunder and ends with whisper. As Europa Clipper's radio signals carry discoveries across the solar system to receivers on Earth, bridging the gap between worlds with the patient transmission of scientific knowledge. The Mars sample return mission unfolds across 2 worlds and nearly a decade of patient choreography, its complexity rivaling the coordination of a planetary ballet performed at interplanetary distances. 3 spacecraft dance through carefully calculated trajectories. The Perseverance rover continues its methodical collection of rock samples in Jezero Crater. The sample return lander awaits its journey aboard a Falcon Heavy, and the Earth return orbiter prepares for its own launch window that opens like a celestial doorway every 26 months. Together, they will complete humanity's first round trip to another planet, bringing pieces of Mars home for analysis in terrestrial laboratories. Perseverance, already working on the Martian surface since February 2021, methodically fills titanium tubes with samples selected for their potential to preserve evidence of ancient life. Each sample represents months of analysis by the rover's onboard laboratories, confirming chemical compositions and geological contexts that make certain rocks worthy of the extraordinary effort required to return them to Earth. The rover seals each tube with hermetic precision, protecting Martian chemistry from contamination by Earth's abundant life while preserving delicate mineral structures that might contain fossilized biosignatures from Mars's ancient past. The Sample Return Lander, scheduled to launch aboard SpaceX's Falcon Heavy, carries within its protective shell the most sophisticated retrieval system ever designed for interplanetary operation. The lander's descent through Mars's thin atmosphere will be guided by terrain relative navigation, identifying safe landing zones within range of Perseverance's sample cache. Upon touchdown, the lander will deploy a small helicopter and a fetch rover, creating a multi-robot retrieval team that operates with the coordination of an ant colony pursuing a common goal. The fetch rover, roughly the size of a large dog, will navigate across Martian terrain to collect the sample tubes that Perseverance has carefully positioned at designated drop-off sites. Each tube weighs only 15 grams, yet represents millions of years of Martian geological history compressed into a container smaller than a pencil. The fetch rover's robotic arm will grasp each tube with mechanical fingers designed to function in temperatures that would freeze steel brittle, transferring them to a secure container aboard the Sample Return Lander. The Mars Ascent Vehicle, nestled within the Sample Return Lander like a rocket within a rocket, represents humanity's first attempt to launch from the surface of another planet. This small rocket, burning solid fuel that cannot freeze in Martian cold, will lift the sample container from Mars's surface to orbit with the efficiency of a perfectly timed trapeze act. The ascent vehicle's trajectory must intersect precisely with the orbit of the Earth return orbiter, which will be waiting in Martian space like a cosmic relay runner preparing to receive a baton containing pieces of an alien world. The irony unfolds in the mission's mathematical precision. Bringing 30 small tubes back to Earth requires the coordination of multiple spacecraft, space agencies, and countries working together across distances that make real-time communication impossible. Radio signals between Earth and Mars travel for up to 24 minutes each way, meaning that the robotic ballet on Mars's surface must unfold with complete autonomy while mission controllers on Earth watch events that occurred nearly an hour in the past. SpaceX's Falcon Heavy enables the sample return lander to reach Mars with sufficient mass to carry both the fetch rover and the Mars ascent vehicle, along with the fuel and landing systems required for the mission's success. Previous launch vehicles would have forced mission planners to choose between capabilities, reducing the fetch rover's range or the ascent vehicle's payload capacity. The Falcon Heavy's performance margin allows NASA to include redundant systems and backup capabilities that increase the mission's probability of success. The Earth Return Orbiter, developed by the European Space Agency, will capture the sample container in Martian orbit using a robotic system that operates like a cosmic baseball mitt, catching a spherical container traveling at orbital velocity. Once secured, the orbiter will begin its journey back to Earth, protecting the Martian samples within a sealed container designed to prevent any possibility of biological contamination during the return journey. The samples will remain sealed until they reach specialized laboratories designed to handle potentially hazardous extraterrestrial materials. The mystery lies in what the Martian samples might reveal about the possibility of life beyond Earth. Jezero Crater preserves geological evidence of an ancient river delta, where flowing water once deposited sediments that might contain fossilized microorganisms from Mars's warmer, wetter past. The samples return to Earth carrying chemical signatures that could rewrite textbooks about the distribution of life in the universe, or confirm the rarity of biological processes that make Earth's biosphere a cosmic anomaly. NASA's investment in Mars sample return represents the agency's most ambitious robotic mission, with costs approaching $7 billion when including international contributions. Yet, the scientific return from analyzing actual Martian rocks in terrestrial laboratories could exceed the knowledge gained from all previous Mars missions combined. Earth's sophisticated analytical instruments can detect chemical signatures and biological markers that no robotic laboratory could identify, revealing secrets locked within Martian geology for billions of years. The mission timeline stretches across the 2020s and into the 2030s, with sample return to Earth planned for 2033. The samples will arrive at Earth traveling at 11 kilometers per second, protected by a heat shield designed to survive atmospheric entry while preserving delicate Martian chemistry. Upon landing, the sample container will be transported to specially constructed laboratories where scientists will spend decades analyzing 30 small tubes containing pieces of another world. In mission control centers on 2 continents, teams of engineers monitor the progress of spacecraft that operate across the solar system with clockwork precision. Perseverance continues its sample collection while the sample return lander undergoes final preparations for its journey aboard a Falcon Heavy. The mission's success depends on perfect execution across multiple phases, each building upon the previous achievement in a sequence that transforms Mars from unreachable destination to the source of materials that humanity can hold, analyze, and understand in ways that remote sensing cannot provide. The first interplanetary postal service prepares for operation, connecting 2 worlds through the patient exchange of geological treasures that carry the history of Mars in their molecular structure. Gateway Station orbits the Moon in a halo around the second Lagrange point, suspended in gravitational equilibrium like a mechanical monastery dedicated to humanity's expansion beyond Earth. The small outpost, no larger than a 4-bedroom house, represents NASA's first permanent human presence beyond low Earth orbit since the Apollo era ended 5 decades ago. Gateway's elliptical path carries it as close as 1 to 500 kilometers to the lunar surface during its closest approach, then sweeps outward to distances where Earth appears as a blue marble suspended in the cosmic dark. The station's modules arrive at lunar orbit aboard Falcon Heavy rockets. Their components launched separately and assembled in space through a process that unfolds across years rather than months. Each module represents specialized capability. The power and propulsion element provides electrical power through solar arrays larger than basketball courts, while the habitation and logistics outpost offers living space for 4 astronauts during missions lasting up to 2 months. Additional modules will expand Gateway's capabilities, adding laboratories, docking ports, and storage areas that transform the outpost from temporary shelter to permanent infrastructure. SpaceX's Falcon Heavy delivers Gateway's components to lunar orbit using a trajectory that requires no propulsion from the modules themselves, arriving at their destination ready for immediate assembly and activation. The rocket's powerful upper stage performs a translunar injection burn that sends payloads on precise trajectories calculated months in advance, accounting for gravitational perturbations from Earth, Moon, and Sun that influence spacecraft motion across the span of weeks. Each module coasts through cislunar space with the patience of a migrating bird, following orbital mechanics rather than continuous propulsion to reach its appointed destination. Gateway's orbit around the lunar Lagrange point provides unique advantages for deep space exploration. The station serves as a staging area for lunar surface operations, allowing astronauts to descend to the moon's surface for extended stays before returning to the relative safety of the orbital outpost. The orbit also positions Gateway as a refueling depot for missions to Mars and the asteroid belt, where spacecraft can top off their propellant tanks before embarking on journeys that will carry them beyond the gravitational influence of Earth and Moon. The irony unfolds in Gateway's deliberate isolation from Earth's immediate neighborhood. While the International Space Station orbits Earth every 90 minutes, receiving regular supply deliveries and maintaining constant communication, Gateway operates in the realm of deep space, where Earth appears as a distant star, and supply missions require days of travel time. The station's crew must embrace a form of space exploration that resembles Antarctic research stations more than orbiting laboratories, with extended periods of self-sufficiency broken by occasional contact with their home planet. NASA's Artemis program uses Gateway as the central hub for returning humans to the lunar surface, but the station's capabilities extend far beyond moon exploration. The outpost provides a test bed for life support systems designed to operate for months without resupply, recycling air and water with efficiency approaching 100%. These closed-loop systems will eventually enable missions to Mars, where cargo capacity limitations make waste disposal impossible and resource recycling becomes essential for crew survival. The station's scientific laboratories take advantage of Gateway's unique location to study the effects of deep space radiation on biological systems, the behavior of materials in the lunar gravitational environment, and the dynamics of cislunar space where Earth and Moon compete for gravitational influence. Experiments conducted aboard Gateway provide data essential for designing spacecraft and life support systems capable of supporting human missions to Mars, where crews will spend months beyond the protection of Earth's magnetic field. The mystery lies in how Gateway transforms humanity's relationship with the Moon from destination to way station. Previous lunar missions treated the Moon as the ultimate goal of space exploration, requiring years of preparation for brief visits to its surface. Gateway makes the Moon accessible for routine operations, where astronauts can travel between Earth orbit and lunar surface as easily as researchers travel between university campuses and field stations. Gateway's orbit requires minimal station-keeping propulsion, using the gravitational balance between Earth and Moon to maintain its position with only occasional thruster burns. This orbital efficiency allows the station to operate for decades with minimal fuel expenditure, creating a permanent human presence in deep space that previous space station designs could not sustain. The station's longevity enables long-term research programs that unfold across years rather than months, studying phenomena that require extended observation periods. The outpost's communication systems maintain contact with Earth across the 400,000 kilometers of space that separate Gateway from mission control centers. Radio signals travel for more than a second each way, introducing delays that force astronauts to operate with greater autonomy than International Space Station crews experience. This communication lag prepares crews for Mars missions, where radio delays extend to 24 minutes and real-time assistance from Earth becomes impossible. SpaceX's regular cargo deliveries to Gateway use the same Falcon Heavy configuration that launches the station's initial modules, creating a supply chain that extends human presence into cislunar space with the routine efficiency of Earth-bound logistics networks. Each cargo mission carries supplies for extended lunar surface operations, spare parts for station systems, and scientific equipment that expands Gateway's research capabilities. In the quiet spaces where Gateway's crew works and sleeps, Earth hangs in the viewport like a distant blue star, no longer the overwhelming presence that dominates the view from low Earth orbit. The Moon looms large during close approaches, its ancient craters and maria visible with naked eye detail that no Earthbound observer can achieve. The station floats in the gravitational sweet spot between worlds, humanity's first permanent foothold in the deep space that extends beyond Earth's immediate neighborhood. Gateway prepares humanity for journeys to destinations where Earth becomes invisible to the naked eye, where crews must sustain themselves across years rather than months, where the techniques of deep space exploration transform from heroic adventure to patient methodology. The station orbits in meditation between Earth and Moon, carrying human dreams toward destinations that exist as points of light in telescopes pointed at the outer solar system. Artemis Base Alpha takes shape in the perpetual twilight of the Moon's south polar region, where the rim of Shackleton Crater catches sunlight for most of the lunar day, while nearby valleys hold water ice that has remained frozen for billions of years. The base emerges from the lunar regolith like a mechanical flower blooming in slow motion, its modules delivered by Starship landers that descend from orbit with the controlled violence of controlled explosions, their engines carving temporary craters in the ancient dust before settling on mechanical legs with the patient authority of industrial machinery. Each Starship that lands at Artemis Base carries 100 tons of cargo in its cavernous hold prefabricated habitat modules, solar panel arrays, life support equipment, and the mining machinery that will extract water from lunar ice deposits. The spacecraft themselves become part of the base infrastructure, their empty propellant tanks repurposed as storage volumes, their life support systems integrated into the base's environmental controls. Starship's enormous cargo capacity transforms lunar base construction from the careful assembly of precious components to something resembling the methodical efficiency of terrestrial construction projects. The base's power systems unfold across the lunar surface like metallic vegetation, solar arrays that track the sun's movement across the black sky with mechanical precision. Near the lunar poles, the sun never rises more than a few degrees above the horizon, creating a perpetual golden hour where shadows stretch for kilometers and solar panels must be precisely oriented to capture the oblique illumination. Battery systems store electrical energy during the brief periods when crater walls block sunlight, maintaining power for life support systems that cannot tolerate interruption. NASA's lunar surface operations depend entirely on SpaceX's Starship for transportation between Earth and the Moon's surface. The Human Landing System variant of Starship carries astronauts from Gateway Station to Artemis Base in a single stage, its methane-fueled engines providing enough thrust to land gently despite the spacecraft's massive size. The lander's cargo bay doubles as an airlock, allowing astronauts to transfer equipment directly to the lunar surface without the complex spacewalks that previous lunar missions required. The irony unfolds in the base's growing self-sufficiency. Each Starship delivery reduces the need for future supply missions by establishing local resource utilization capabilities. The ISRU in-situ resource utilization plant extracts water from lunar ice, then splits the water into hydrogen and oxygen using solar-powered electrolysis. The hydrogen provides fuel for fuel cells that generate electricity during lunar night, while the oxygen supports life support systems and could eventually fuel spacecraft departing from the lunar surface. Artemis Base Alpha represents humanity's first attempt at establishing permanent infrastructure beyond Earth orbit, designed to operate continuously rather than during brief mission windows. The base's habitat modules provide shirt-sleeve environments where astronauts can work for weeks or months without spacesuits, conducting research and maintaining equipment with the routine efficiency of terrestrial laboratories. The base's workshops contain 3D printers and fabrication equipment capable of manufacturing spare parts and tools from lunar materials, reducing dependence on Earth-based supply chains. The lunar regolith around the base gradually transforms under human influence, marked by rover tracks, landing scars from Starship engines, and the geometric patterns of solar panel installations. Astronauts work in the low-gravity environment, wearing spacesuits designed for extended surface operations, their movements creating small dust clouds that settle immediately in the airless environment. The base expands module by module, each new addition increasing its capabilities and extending the duration of human presence on the lunar surface. The mystery lies in how quickly the moon transforms from destination to workplace. Previous Apollo missions treated lunar surface time as precious beyond measure, with every minute carefully choreographed to maximize scientific return during brief visits. Artemis Base Alpha enables routine lunar operations where astronauts can take time to explore interesting geological features, conduct extended experiments, and develop the expertise that comes only from living and working in an alien environment. NASA's partnership with SpaceX for lunar surface access creates a transportation system where missions to the moon become as routine as flights to remote research stations. Starship's reusability allows the same vehicle to make multiple trips between Earth and lunar surface, building up base infrastructure with the patient accumulation of capability. Each landing brings new equipment, fresh crews, and scientific instruments that expand the base's research capabilities. The base's communication systems maintain constant contact with Earth through high-gain antennas that track across the lunar sky as the moon rotates. Data from lunar experiments streams back to Earth in real time, allowing terrestrial researchers to participate in lunar science programs without leaving their laboratories. The base serves as humanity's first permanent outpost beyond Earth, proving that sustainable human presence in space requires not heroic expeditions, but patient engineering and reliable logistics. Starship's methane fuel system enables the spacecraft to refuel at the lunar surface using resources extracted from the lunar environment. Future ISRU facilities will produce methane from carbon dioxide imported from Earth and hydrogen extracted from lunar water ice, creating a closed-loop fuel system that reduces dependence on Earth-based propellant production. This capability transforms the moon from fuel sink to fuel source, enabling missions to Mars and the asteroid belt that launch from lunar orbit rather than Earth's deeper gravitational well. In the workshops and laboratories of Artemis Base Alpha, astronauts conduct research that requires hands-on manipulation impossible with robotic systems. They study lunar geology with the patience of field researchers, collecting samples that represent billions of years of solar system history preserved in the moon's ancient crust. The base's centrifuge generates artificial gravity for biological experiments, studying how plants and animals adapt to gravitational environments between Earth's one gravity and the weightlessness of space. The lunar base prepares humanity for permanent settlement beyond Earth, testing technologies and procedures that will eventually enable cities on Mars, mining operations in the asteroid belt, and research stations around Jupiter's moons. Artemis Base Alpha floats in the lunar vacuum like humanity's first seed planted in the soil of another world, growing slowly but persistently toward a future where Earth becomes home port rather than prison for a spacefaring civilization. The Deep Space Network's massive antennas turn toward the cosmos with the patient precision of mechanical sunflowers, their 70-meter dishes tracking spacecraft that drift through the outer solar system like technological dandelion seeds scattered on interplanetary winds. At Goldstone in California's Mojave Desert, at Madrid in Spain's High Plains, and at Canberra in Australia's inland ranges, these radio telescopes maintain humanity's most tenuous conversations, whispered exchanges with robots exploring worlds where sunlight arrives weak as candle flame and radio signals take hours to bridge the gulf between transmitter and receiver. The Voyager spacecraft, launched aboard expendable rockets in 1977, still transmit their faint signals across 45 years and billions of miles of empty space. Their radio whispers arrive at Earth with power measured in attawatts, a billionth of a watt. Yet the Deep Space Network's sensitive receivers capture every bit of data with the dedication of amateur radio operators maintaining contact with distant friends. Each signal carries information about magnetic fields, cosmic ray densities, and the properties of interstellar space where no human artifact has traveled before. Europa Clipper, launched aboard a Falcon Heavy and now approaching Jupiter's radiation-dominated neighborhood, communicates with Earth through the same network that tracks dozens of active missions scattered across the solar system. The spacecraft's high-gain antenna, precisely pointed toward Earth despite Jupiter's gravitational perturbations, transmits data at rates that would seem glacial by terrestrial internet standards, yet represent miracles of engineering when spanning the 600 million kilometers between Jupiter and Earth at closest approach. The network's scheduling resembles air traffic control for an interplanetary airline, with each antenna allocated time slots for specific spacecraft based on orbital mechanics, mission priorities, and the simple geometry of line-of-sight communication. When Mars passes behind the Sun, as seen from Earth, missions to the Red Planet enter communications blackout, their data stored in onboard memory until planetary alignments restore radio contact weeks later. The network's operators work with patience measured in astronomical units, understanding that space exploration operates on timescales where urgency becomes meaningless. SpaceX's frequent launches create new demands on the Deep Space Network's capacity as NASA's missions multiply beyond the limitations of previous launch vehicle availability. The Europa Clipper mission, the Mars Sample Return Campaign, and future missions to Venus, Titan, and the asteroid belt will all require regular communication sessions with Earth-based controllers. Each spacecraft becomes a node in humanity's expanding nervous system, extending human senses to worlds where direct experience remains impossible. The irony unfolds in the network's mixture of cutting-edge technology and ancient patience. The antennas use receivers cooled to temperatures approaching absolute zero, amplifying signals so weak that their total energy collected over decades would not power a flashlight bulb for a microsecond. Yet these technological marvels operate with the methodical rhythm of lighthouse keepers, maintaining watch over spacecraft that may not transmit new data for months or years between significant discoveries. The network's engineers design communication protocols that account for the vast distances and long delays inherent in deep space exploration. Commands uploaded to spacecraft include conditional logic, if-then statements that allow robots to respond to unexpected situations without waiting for instructions from Earth. When New Horizons encountered Pluto in 2015, the spacecraft executed its observation sequence autonomously, knowing that radio signals confirming successful execution would not reach Earth until hours after the encounter ended. The mystery lies in how the network maintains coherent conversations across distances that challenge human comprehension. Radio signals from the outer planets travel for hours at the speed of light, yet controllers on Earth coordinate spacecraft activities with precision measured in seconds. The accumulated light time delay for signals traveling to Neptune and back exceeds 8 hours, transforming real-time control into correspondence conducted across temporal distances that dwarf historical communication delays. NASA's partnership with SpaceX increases the number of active deep space missions from a handful to dozens, straining the network's capacity while multiplying humanity's presence throughout the solar system. Each successful launch aboard a Falcon 9 or Falcon Heavy potentially adds years of communication requirements as spacecraft execute extended missions that far exceed their planned lifespans. The Opportunity rover operated on Mars for nearly 15 years beyond its planned 90-day mission, requiring regular communication sessions that accumulated into thousands of hours of antenna time. The Deep Space Network serves as humanity's ears extended into the cosmic dark, listening for whispers from robots that explore worlds no human may ever visit. The network's receivers capture data from spacecraft studying the chemical composition of Titan's lakes, the magnetic field structure around Jupiter, and the properties of interstellar space beyond the influence of the Sun's solar wind. Each transmission carries information that expands human knowledge of the cosmos while demonstrating the feasibility of maintaining technological presence across interplanetary distances. The antennas work in coordinated shifts, with Goldstone handing off tracking responsibilities to Madrid as Earth's rotation carries American receivers below the horizon, then passing contact to Canberra as European antennas lose line of sight with distant spacecraft. This global coordination ensures continuous communication with missions that operate beyond the protection of Earth's atmosphere and magnetic field, maintaining human connection with robotic explorers that venture into environments where biological life could not survive. In the control rooms adjacent to each massive antenna, technicians monitor signal strength and data quality, with the patient attention of medical professionals tracking vital signs. They adjust receiver settings to compensate for spacecraft drift, track Doppler shifts that reveal orbital changes, and decode telemetry that describes the health of systems operating millions of miles from the nearest repair facility. The network's operators serve as interplanetary postal workers, ensuring that messages travel reliably between Earth and humanity's expanding robotic presence throughout the solar system. The Deep Space Network enables discoveries that reshape humanity's understanding of planetary science, astrobiology, and the distribution of potentially habitable worlds. Each spacecraft adds new voices to the conversation, multiplying the data streams that flow through the network's receivers like a gradually intensifying cosmic symphony composed of radio whispers from the frontier of human exploration. The transformation unfolds with the quiet inevitability of technological evolution, where yesterday's impossibilities become today's routine operations. SpaceX's Falcon 9 rockets launch with the methodical frequency of scheduled airline departures, their reusable first stages accumulating flight experience that would have seemed fantastical to previous generations of aerospace engineers. Each successful landing, each refurbishment cycle, each return to flight builds the infrastructure of reliability that transforms space exploration from heroic expedition to systematic investigation of the cosmos. The economics ripple through NASA's mission planning offices like water finding new channels after the removal of an ancient dam. Planetary science missions, once forced to choose between destinations, now consider portfolio approaches where multiple spacecraft launch toward different worlds within the same fiscal year. The cost savings from routine access to orbit fund not just individual missions but entire classes of exploration that were previously unimaginable within budgetary constraints that measured space exploration success in decades between major missions. The James Webb Space Telescope, launched aboard an Ariane 5 rocket in 2021, represents the last generation of space science conducted under the old paradigm where launch costs dominated mission budgets and single-point failures could terminate decades of scientific planning. Future space telescopes will launch aboard Falcon Heavy rockets at costs that allow multiple backup instruments, redundant systems, and mission architectures that embrace calculated risk rather than avoiding it through expensive over-engineering. SpaceX's Starship, still in development but approaching operational capability, promises to revolutionize space science through sheer cargo capacity that dwarfs all previous launch vehicles. Scientific missions designed around Starship's enormous payload bay can include multiple redundant spacecraft, backup instruments, and extended mission capabilities that transform space exploration from precious one-shot opportunities to robust investigative campaigns. A single Starship launch could deliver multiple orbiters, landers, and atmospheric probes to Mars, creating a reconnaissance fleet rather than individual explorers. The irony unfolds in the patient accumulation of routine capability that enables extraordinary exploration. Each mundane Starlink satellite launch aboard a reused Falcon 9 contributes to the experience base that makes interplanetary missions reliable. The techniques developed for deploying 60 satellites at once inform the procedures for releasing multiple spacecraft during outer-planet missions. The autonomous flight software that guides boosters back to landing pads evolves into the systems that will navigate spacecraft through asteroid fields and land on the moons of Jupiter. NASA's asteroid redirect mission concepts, once shelved due to launch costs that exceeded scientific budgets, return to active consideration as Starship's capabilities make previously impossible missions economically feasible. The spacecraft that could capture a small asteroid and redirect it to lunar orbit for human exploration would launch aboard a single Starship, carrying enough fuel and equipment to complete complex orbital maneuvers that require multiple years and enormous Delta-V budgets. The multiplication of launch opportunities creates temporal flexibility that previous mission planners could only dream about. Launch windows to Mars occur every 26 months, but Starship's capabilities and SpaceX's launch frequency mean that missing an optimal window no longer requires waiting 2 years for the next opportunity. Suboptimal trajectories that require slightly more fuel or longer flight times become acceptable trade-offs when launch costs drop to levels where mission timing becomes a matter of preference rather than economic necessity. The mystery lies in how quickly extraordinary capability becomes routine expectation. SpaceX's drone ship landings, once celebrated as engineering marvels worthy of global attention, now merit barely a mention in space industry publications. Yet each routine recovery represents accumulated expertise that enables the next level of mission complexity, the next destination that transitions from impossible to merely challenging to routine operational capability. Private industry's profit motive creates sustainable space access that government programs, dependent on political cycles and budget appropriations, struggle to maintain across the decades that major space exploration missions require. SpaceX optimizes for cost efficiency and operational reliability, not to benefit science, but to capture commercial market share. Yet their business success creates the economic conditions that enable systematic exploration of the solar system. The Deep Space Gateway, lunar surface bases, and Mars exploration campaigns all depend on launch capabilities that exceed any single mission's requirements. Starship's design philosophy embraces overcapability as a feature rather than a bug, providing payload mass and volume margins that allow mission planners to include equipment and supplies that would be impossible with more modest launch vehicles. The spacecraft becomes a moving warehouse rather than a carefully optimized delivery system, carrying everything needed for extended operations in environments where resupply missions cost billions of dollars and require years to execute. The network effects multiply across NASA's mission portfolio as routine space access enables new classes of international cooperation. The European Space Agency's contributions to Mars sample return become more valuable when launch costs allow multiple backup systems and extended mission durations. Japan's expertise in asteroid sample return scales to larger missions when Starship can carry heavier spacecraft with more capable instruments. The collaboration becomes additive rather than substitutive, with each partner contributing specialized capabilities rather than sharing limited resources. In the quiet offices where future missions take shape, NASA's planners work with assumptions that would have seemed absurd just decades earlier. Mission concepts that require multiple launches, extended operation periods, and backup systems become standard rather than exceptional. The constraint optimization that dominated previous mission design, choosing between scientific objectives due to mass and cost limitations, gives way to opportunity maximization, where the primary challenge becomes managing complexity rather than rationing capability. The solar system transforms from a collection of barely reachable destinations to an extended laboratory where systematic investigation becomes possible through the patient accumulation of reliable, affordable access to orbit. Each routine launch builds the infrastructure of knowledge that makes the next mission more capable, more ambitious, more likely to answer questions that previous generations could formulate but not investigate. The revolution whispers through the corridors of mission control centers across the globe, carried not in dramatic announcements but in the quiet transformation of launch manifests that list spacecraft like items on a grocery list rather than national treasures requiring decades of political negotiation. SpaceX's monthly launch cadence creates a rhythm of routine that fundamentally alters how space agencies approach mission planning, transforming the scarcity-driven rationing of previous decades into something resembling abundance, not infinite abundance, but sufficient capacity that scientific ambition need no longer bow entirely to economic constraint. The Falcon 9's flight history accumulates like compound interest. each successful mission adding to a database of performance metrics that would make airlines envious. Individual boosters fly 10, 15, 20 times, their engines lighting with the reliability of municipal streetlights turning on at dusk. The Block 5 variant of the Falcon 9 achieves operational characteristics that approach airliner-like dependability, where the primary sources of mission delay shift from vehicle reliability to payload readiness, weather constraints, and the simple logistics of coordinating complex operations across multiple time zones. NASA's missions benefit from this reliability in ways both obvious and subtle. The obvious advantages appear in cost savings and schedule flexibility. Missions launch when ready rather than waiting for rare launch opportunities. Backup spacecraft become economically feasible, and instrument redundancy transforms from luxury to standard practice. The subtle benefits emerge in mission architecture, where planners can design spacecraft that optimize for scientific capability rather than launch vehicle constraints, freed from the mass and volume limitations that shaped previous generations of space exploration. The Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, launched in 2005 aboard an Atlas V rocket, carries instruments that represent careful compromises between scientific capability and launch vehicle performance. Future Mars orbiters, launched aboard Falcon Heavy or Starship, will carry instrument suites that dwarf their predecessors in capability while maintaining the redundancy that ensures mission success even when individual components fail. The transformation resembles the evolution from handcrafted automobiles to mass production, where increased capability combines with reduced cost to democratize previously elite technologies. SpaceX's reusability philosophy extends beyond first-stage recovery to encompass payload fairings, the protective shells that shield satellites during atmospheric ascent. These carbon fiber clamshells, worth several $1 million each, deploy parachutes and splash down in the Pacific Ocean, where recovery vessels collect them for refurbishment and reuse. The fairing recovery program alone saves tens of millions of dollars annually, funds that NASA redirects toward additional scientific instruments and extended mission operations. The irony unfolds in boardrooms where mission planners confront the luxury of choice rather than the tyranny of constraint. Previous generations designed missions around launch vehicle capabilities, accepting scientific compromises when spacecraft mass approached vehicle limits. Current planners face different trade-offs. Should a Mars mission carry multiple redundant communication systems or additional scientific instruments? Should lunar missions include backup landing systems or extended surface operation capability? The questions shift from whether missions are possible to how ambitious they should become. The International Space Station's cargo supply illustrates this transformation perfectly. Dragon spacecraft dock with the station every few months, delivering supplies with the routine efficiency of delivery trucks servicing remote research stations. The station's crew no longer rations consumables with the careful attention of Antarctic researchers measuring food supplies against winter duration. Fresh fruit, replacement equipment, and new scientific instruments arrive regularly, transforming the station from survival exercise to productive laboratory. Reliability metrics that once applied only to terrestrial transportation systems now describe spacecraft operations. The Falcon 9 achieves success rates approaching 99%, performance statistics that enable mission planners to design exploration programs that depend on multiple launches rather than single all-or-nothing attempts. Mars sample return missions can include backup spacecraft launched on separate vehicles. Lunar base construction can proceed through multiple cargo deliveries rather than single massive payloads. The mystery lies in how quickly institutional cultures adapt to new capabilities. NASA's risk-averse engineering culture, developed through decades of operating at the margins of technological possibility, gradually embraces mission architectures that would have seemed recklessly optimistic under previous launch paradigms. The agency's engineers learn to design for abundance rather than scarcity, optimizing for scientific return rather than survival in the unforgiving mathematics of mass-limited spacecraft design. Commercial space access creates competitive pressure that benefits NASA's missions even when the agency does not directly purchase commercial services. United Launch Alliance reduces prices to compete with SpaceX, European and Japanese launch providers develop reusable capabilities to maintain market share. New companies emerge offering specialized services for specific mission requirements. The competition drives innovation and cost reduction across the entire launch industry, creating a rising tide that lifts all spacecraft. The accumulation of flight experience enables increasingly complex missions that depend on multiple spacecraft working in coordination. Future exploration of Jupiter's moons might include orbital surveys, atmospheric probes, surface landers, and communication relays launched across multiple years, but operating as integrated systems. The missions become campaigns rather than individual expeditions, sustained investigations that unfold across decades rather than brief encounters limited by single launch constraints. In the clean rooms where spacecraft undergo final assembly, technicians work with the confidence of craftsmen who know their creations will reach their destinations aboard reliable transportation. The careful mass budgeting that dominated previous mission design gives way to capability budgeting, where engineers add instruments and backup systems that enhance scientific return rather than fighting for every gram of payload mass. The spacecraft grow heavier, more capable, more likely to survive the years-long journeys to destinations where repair missions remain impossible, but mission success becomes increasingly probable. The revolution arrives not with fanfare, but with the quiet satisfaction of watching impossible become routine. Heroic become methodical. Once in a lifetime becomes scheduled for next Tuesday morning at 3:47 a.m. Eastern Time. Weather permitting, backup opportunities available throughout the week. The interstellar probe drifts through the final stages of assembly in the clean rooms of the Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory, its golden instruments gleaming under sterile lights like artifacts from a civilization that has learned to touch the space between stars. This spacecraft, designed to venture farther from Earth than any human creation except the aging Voyager twins, represents humanity's first deliberate attempt to study interstellar space rather than simply stumbling into it after completing planetary missions. The probe will launch aboard a Falcon Heavy in the early 2030s, beginning a journey that will carry it 1,000 astronomical units from the Sun, a distance where Earth's star appears as merely the brightest point in an alien sky. The mission timeline unfolds across half a century of patient travel, with the spacecraft crossing the heliopause sometime in the 2040s and continuing outward for decades beyond. Unlike Voyager, which discovered interstellar space by accident after completing its grand tour of the outer planets. The interstellar probe carries instruments specifically designed to study the properties of space between stars. Its magnetometer will map the structure of interstellar magnetic fields. Its plasma analyzer will taste the chemistry of the local interstellar medium, and its cosmic ray detector will measure radiation levels in regions where the sun's protective influence fades to negligible strength. SpaceX's Falcon Heavy provides the energy necessary to accelerate the interstellar probe to velocities approaching 20 kilometers per second, fast enough to reach the edge of the solar system within 15 years rather than the 40-plus years that Voyager required. The rocket's powerful upper stage performs a complex sequence of burns that first establishes a highly elliptical Earth orbit, then waits for optimal planetary alignment before firing again to send the spacecraft on its trajectory toward the outer solar system and beyond. The spacecraft will use Jupiter's massive gravitational field as a slingshot, gaining additional velocity that carries it beyond the orbits of Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune with the efficiency of a stone skipped across a cosmic pond. This gravitational assist technique, perfected by JPL's trajectory designers during the Voyager era, transforms planetary encounters from destinations into stepping stones that enable missions to reach velocities impossible through rocket propulsion alone. The irony unfolds in the probe's destination. Emptiness itself becomes the target of humanity's most ambitious exploration mission, interstellar space. Once considered the void between interesting destinations, reveals itself through Voyager's discoveries as a dynamic environment filled with magnetic fields, charged particles, and phenomena that Earth-based astronomy cannot detect. The interstellar probe will spend decades studying this cosmic medium, transmitting data across distances that challenge the sensitivity of Earth's largest radio telescopes. The spacecraft's power system relies on radioisotope thermoelectric generators that convert the heat from decaying plutonium into electricity with no moving parts and minimal degradation across decades of operation. These nuclear batteries, the same technology that powers NASA's Mars rovers and outer planet missions, will provide electrical power for the probe's instruments and communication systems long after solar panels would become useless in the dim light of distant stars. The probe's communication system faces challenges that test the limits of radio engineering. At maximum distance, the spacecraft's signals will take nearly 6 days to reach Earth at the speed of light, requiring mission controllers to operate with patience, measured in weeks, between command transmission and confirmation of execution. The Deep Space Network's most sensitive antennas will strain to detect signals that arrive with power levels measured in zeptawatts, a billionth of a billionth of a billionth of a watt. The mystery lies in what the interstellar probe might discover in the space between stars, where phenomena invisible to Earth-based observation create the environment through which our solar system moves at 19 kilometers per second. The spacecraft will measure the density and composition of interstellar dust, the strength and direction of magnetic fields that permeate the galaxy, and the properties of cosmic rays that originate in distant supernovae and traverse the Milky Way for millions of years before reaching our local neighborhood. NASA's investment in the interstellar probe represents the agency's longest-term scientific commitment, a mission that will outlive most of its designers and continue transmitting data well into the 22nd century. The spacecraft carries no crew, requires no maintenance, and depends entirely on the accumulated reliability of systems that must function flawlessly across distances and timescales that dwarf all previous human experience with technological artifacts. The mission's scientific instruments, hardened against decades of cosmic ray bombardment and designed to operate at temperatures approaching absolute zero, will study phenomena that exist only in the space between stellar systems. The probe's trajectory will carry it through regions where the sun's influence becomes indistinguishable from background cosmic phenomena, where Earth appears as an invisible speck orbiting an unremarkable star in an ordinary galaxy. The launch window for the interstellar probe depends on planetary alignments that occur only every few years, requiring precise timing that coordinates spacecraft readiness with celestial mechanics. The Falcon Heavy that lifts the probe toward its appointment with interstellar space will complete its mission in minutes, but the spacecraft will continue its journey for decades after the rocket's debris settles into Earth's oceans. In mission control centers that will be rebuilt several times during the probe's operational lifetime, future generations of scientists will receive data from humanity's most distant artifact. The spacecraft will report on conditions in interstellar space while Earth completes dozens of orbits around the Sun. Civilizations rise and fall, and technologies emerge that its designers cannot imagine. The probe's radio signals, growing ever fainter as distance accumulates, will carry information about the galaxy's local properties back to a species that is just beginning to understand its place in the cosmic ecosystem. The interstellar probe begins its journey on a Tuesday morning that will be forgotten long before the spacecraft completes its mission, launching aboard a rocket that represents humanity's most routine achievement in service of its most ambitious scientific undertaking. The mission bridges the gap between the known and unknowable, carrying human curiosity into regions where no natural process will ever return information to Earth except through the patient whisper of radio waves traveling across the darkness between stars. The cosmic perspective emerges gradually, like dawn breaking over a landscape previously visible only in starlight, as humanity's robotic emissaries disperse throughout the solar system aboard rockets that return home to fly again. From the mission control centers of Earth, our planet shrinks from the overwhelming presence that dominates human experience to a pale blue dot suspended in the cosmic dark. Carl Sagan's poetic description transformed from metaphor to operational reality as spacecraft launched from commercial pads transmit images that place Earth in its proper cosmic context. The cameras aboard Europa Clipper, speeding toward Jupiter on its 6-year journey, occasionally turn back toward the inner solar system to photograph Earth and Moon as a double point of light barely distinguishable from background stars. These images arrive at Earth's Deep Space Network antennas, carrying a message written in photons. The world that launched the spacecraft appears no more significant than any other star when viewed from the perspective of Jupiter's neighborhood. The transformation from home to distant light occurs gradually, invisible day by day but transformational when measured across the years of interplanetary travel. SpaceX's routine access to orbit enables NASA's missions to achieve perspectives that were once available only to the handful of humans who traveled beyond Earth's immediate vicinity. The Voyager spacecraft, launched in 1977 aboard Titan rockets that were discarded after single use, transmitted their famous pale blue dot image from beyond Neptune's orbit in 1990. Today's missions, launched aboard reusable Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy rockets, carry cameras with resolution and sensitivity that would have seemed magical to Voyager's designers, yet they launch with the routine frequency of airline departures. The parallax effect of multiple spacecraft observing Earth from different locations simultaneously creates a three-dimensional map of our planet's position in space. The Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter images Earth from the vicinity of the red planet, while the Parker Solar Probe photographs our world from near the Sun. Their combined observations triangulating Earth's location with precision that exceeds the accuracy of any Earth-based measurement. The home planet becomes just another celestial object whose orbit can be calculated and predicted like any asteroid or comet. The irony unfolds in how quickly the extraordinary becomes ordinary images of Earth from space. Once capable of inspiring environmental movements and philosophical revolutions, multiply beyond the human capacity to appreciate their significance. The International Space Station's crew photographs Earth every 90 minutes during their orbital passes. The Lunar Gateway astronauts image their home planet from the distance of the Moon, and robotic missions throughout the solar system occasionally turn their cameras homeward during calibration sequences. Earth appears in so many spacecraft images that its cosmic insignificance becomes mundane fact rather than profound revelation. The optical systems carried by modern spacecraft resolve details invisible to previous generations of space explorers. The James Webb Space Telescope, positioned at the Earth-Sun L2 Lagrange point, occasionally images Earth and Moon during instrument calibration, capturing our planet as a blue marble streaked with white clouds against the absolute black of space. These images arrive with pixel-by-pixel clarity that reveals continental outlines, weather patterns, and the thin atmosphere that protects the only known living world in the universe. The distance measurements accumulate like archaeological layers, each mission adding new perspective on humanity's cosmic address. The Parker Solar Probe, diving closer to the Sun than any previous spacecraft, images Earth from inside the orbit of Venus, showing our planet as a bright star accompanying the Sun in its travels through the galaxy. The New Horizons spacecraft, now beyond Pluto's orbit and heading toward interstellar space, photographs Earth as an invisible point requiring precise pointing instructions to distinguish from background stars. The mystery lies in how perspective transforms understanding. Earth's apparent significance diminishes with distance, while its actual importance to human civilization remains absolute. The spacecraft that image our planet from billions of miles away depend entirely on Earth-based mission control centers for their instructions. Their scientific discoveries become meaningful only when transmitted back to terrestrial receivers, and their ultimate purpose serves to expand human knowledge rather than replace human habitat. Commercial launch capabilities enable missions that accumulate multiple perspectives simultaneously rather than requiring decades between viewpoints. The Artemis lunar missions will provide continuous imaging of Earth from the Moon's surface and orbit, while simultaneous missions to Mars, Venus, and the asteroid belt create a distributed network of observing platforms that monitor our planet from throughout the inner solar system. Earth becomes the subject of systematic observation rather than occasional photography. The cognitive shift occurs gradually as humanity adapts to seeing home from the outside. Mission planners routinely work with trajectory plots that show Earth as a small circle in diagrams dominated by interplanetary space. Launch windows depend on planetary alignments where Earth appears as one celestial body among many, its position calculated months in advance to optimize spacecraft trajectories. The planet that encompasses all human experience becomes a navigation waypoint in calculations that span the solar system. The robotic explorers scattered throughout the solar system carry human sensors to locations where biological life could not survive. Yet they remain connected to Earth through radio waves that travel at light speed across distances measured in astronomical units. The Mars rovers image sunrise over alien landscapes while their controllers on Earth experience sunset over familiar continents. The time delay creating a temporal displacement that mirrors the spatial separation between worlds. In the quiet moments between mission activities, spacecraft cameras capture images of Earth rising over lunar horizons, setting behind Martian mountains, or appearing as a bright star in the skies of distant moons. These images accumulate in digital archives like family photographs of home taken during extended travel, each frame documenting humanity's expanding presence in space while maintaining connection to the world that remains the source and destination of all exploration. The cosmic perspective whispers its way into human consciousness through the patient accumulation of images transmitted by spacecraft launched aboard rockets that land themselves after completing their appointed tasks. Earth becomes simultaneously more precious and more ordinary, the only known harbor of life in a vast ocean of space, yet also just another planet orbiting just another star in an unremarkable galaxy floating in the infinite cosmos. The spacecraft drift through the interplanetary night in formations that would be invisible to any observer save their creators, scattered across the solar system like mechanical seeds planted in the gravitational furrows of orbital mechanics. They travel through regions where the sun appears as nothing more than the brightest star in an alien sky. Their trajectories calculated years in advance to account for planetary motions, solar pressure, and the subtle gravitational perturbations of moons whose names appear only in astronomical catalogs. These robotic explorers launched aboard rockets that thundered briefly from Earth's surface before returning home to fly again. Now navigate the cosmic dark with the patient autonomy of migrating birds following invisible highways written in the language of physics. The New Horizons spacecraft. Now beyond the orbit of Pluto and heading toward the constellation Sagittarius, operates in a realm where radio signals from Earth arrive 48 hours after transmission, carrying commands that address situations that may have changed completely during the time light requires to bridge the gap between worlds. The spacecraft executes its observing sequences with mechanical precision, its computers making decisions based on programming uploaded years earlier, when the probe still basked in the relatively warm glow of the inner solar system. Its instruments continue to taste the properties of interplanetary space, measuring phenomena that exist only in the regions where the sun's influence fades to background levels indistinguishable from the galaxy's ambient environment. Europa Clipper approaches Jupiter with instruments that will soon begin their decades-long study of ice-covered moons harboring alien oceans beneath shells of frozen water. The spacecraft's trajectory through the Jovian system unfolds like a carefully choreographed dance, each orbital pass designed to maximize scientific observation while minimizing exposure to radiation levels that would sterilize any biological organism in minutes. The probe will spend years in the vicinity of Jupiter, yet its journey began with minutes of controlled thunder as Falcon Heavy boosters lifted it beyond Earth's gravitational embrace before returning to land with the gentle precision of mechanical herons. The Mars sample. Return mission continues its patient progression through the complexity of interplanetary logistics, with multiple spacecraft coordinating across distances that make real-time communication impossible. The Perseverance rover continues its methodical collection of geological samples, while the sample return lander waits for its launch window aboard another Falcon Heavy. The mission's success depends on choreography that spans years and worlds, each component arriving at its appointed destination with timing measured in months and precision measured in kilometers. The Deep Space Network's antennas track these scattered emissaries with the dedication of lighthouse keepers, maintaining watch over invisible ships navigating by radio beacons. Each spacecraft requires regular communication sessions that consume precious antenna time, their data streams arriving at rates that would seem glacial by terrestrial internet standards, yet represent miracles of engineering when spanning distances measured in light hours. The network's operators work with the patience of postal workers, ensuring that messages travel reliably between Earth and humanity's expanding robotic presence throughout the solar system. The irony whispers through mission control centers where engineers monitor spacecraft that operate beyond the possibility of rescue or repair. Their systems designed to function flawlessly across years of operation in environments that would destroy any biological organism within seconds. These mechanical explorers carry human curiosity to destinations where humans cannot follow, extending our senses across distances that reduce Earth to an invisible point, while expanding our understanding of worlds that exist as nothing more than points of light in terrestrial telescopes. The sleep between star systems unfolds across timescales that dwarf human experience, where spacecraft launched during one historical epoch continue their journeys through another. The Voyager probes, now in their 5th decade of operation, transmit data from interstellar space to receivers operated by scientists who were not yet born when the spacecraft left Earth. Their discoveries reshape human understanding of the galaxy's local environment while their creators age, retire, and pass their responsibilities to new generations of researchers who inherit conversations begun before their birth. Starship stands ready at Starbase for missions that will dwarf the capabilities of current spacecraft, its enormous cargo bay capable of carrying multiple probes to destinations throughout the outer solar system. Future missions might deploy entire fleets of explorers rather than individual spacecraft, creating observational networks that study planetary systems with the thoroughness that single probes cannot achieve. The revolution in launch capability enables exploration strategies that previous generations could not imagine within the constraints of throwaway rockets and billion-dollar launch costs. The mystery lies in the patient accumulation of knowledge transmitted by spacecraft that operate in the cosmic dark for decades after their creators lose direct control over their activities. These mechanical ambassadors carry human questions to alien worlds while operating with increasing autonomy, as distance and time delay make Earth-based control impractical. They become humanity's most distant artifacts, technological messages in bottles cast into the cosmic ocean with faith that their discoveries will justify the patience required for their completion. The long sleep between stars transforms space exploration from episodic adventure to generational undertaking, where missions begun by one cohort of scientists conclude under the stewardship of their intellectual descendants. The spacecraft that carry human dreams across the solar system operate with the persistence of geological processes, accumulating data and distance with equal patience, while their home planet completes its annual dance around a star that appears increasingly ordinary when viewed from the perspective of deep space. In the navigation computers of scattered spacecraft, Earth appears as a set of coordinates in trajectory calculations that span the solar system, no longer the overwhelming presence that dominates human experience, but simply the origin point of journeys that carry exploration beyond the gravitational boundaries of home. The mechanical wanderers drift through the cosmic night with radio whispers that bridge the gap between worlds, their discoveries transmitted across distances that transform the extraordinary into routine, the impossible into inevitable, the unknown into gradually familiar territory mapped by patient exploration and methodical discovery. The cosmic quiet settles like ancient dust across the trajectories of humanity's scattered emissaries, their radio whispers growing fainter as distance accumulates between transmitter and receiver. In the Deep Space Network's control rooms, technicians adjust antenna pointings with the patience of astronomers tracking stars across seasonal skies, their receivers straining to capture signals that carry the accumulated wisdom of worlds no human eye has seen. The spacecraft drift through interplanetary space with mechanical serenity, their systems cycling through observation sequences programmed years earlier, when Earth still appeared as more than a navigation reference in their guidance computers. The Falcon Heavy boosters that lifted these explorers toward their appointments with distant worlds now stand refurbished and ready for tomorrow's missions. Their grid fins folded against hulls that bear the scorch marks of atmospheric re-entry like badges of service to humanity's expanding presence in space. The rockets wait with infinite patience for their next cargo of dreams and instruments, their reusability transforming space exploration from rare spectacle to routine methodology, where missions launch not as singular achievements, but as scheduled appointments with the unknown. In the mission control centers that coordinate this interplanetary symphony, displays show spacecraft positions updated once daily. Their slow progress measured in millions of kilometers traversed since yesterday's calculations. The engineers who monitor these distant travelers work with the calm efficiency of lighthouse keepers, maintaining communication protocols that bridge distances measured in light minutes and light hours. They speak in whispers to colleagues across darkened rooms where the only illumination comes from screens displaying telemetry from robots exploring alien worlds. The sleep descends gradually across the solar system as Earth's rotation carries mission control centers into night, their operators handing responsibility to colleagues in different time zones who maintain humanity's conversation with scattered spacecraft. The mechanical explorers continue their work in the cosmic dark, their instruments measuring magnetic fields, radiation levels, and chemical compositions while their creators sleep beneath familiar constellations. The universe turns with geological patience, carrying planets through their ordained orbits while human dreams travel outward aboard spacecraft that navigate by starlight and atomic clocks. The revolution fades to whisper as tomorrow's missions take shape in engineering workshops where technicians prepare instruments that will taste the atmosphere of distant worlds, drill samples from alien soil, and image phenomena that exist only in the space between planets. The routine accumulates like sedimentary layers, each successful mission creating precedent for the next, building the infrastructure of knowledge that transforms impossible destinations into mapped territories of systematic exploration. In the profound stillness that connects all worlds, spacecraft and planets alike follow trajectories written in the fundamental laws of physics, their motion as predictable as sunrise and as patient as continental drift. The cosmic dance continues across timescales that dwarf human civilization, while our mechanical ambassadors carry questions and instruments into regions where no biological life could survive, extending human curiosity across distances that reduce Earth to a pale blue dot among countless stars. The sleep between worlds deepens into the infinite patience of space itself, where time moves with the rhythm of orbital mechanics and discovery arrives at the speed of light across distances measured in astronomical units of profound silence.